Welcome, class members. So here's some information about our term project. So you're going to fill out some details in this document, rename it as your team name, and upload it to this Dropbox location. If you have any problems with that, just send me an email. We'll step you through it. Now, the project concept is that you're to use all of the topics we're going to cover to either design a web application or a mobile app. And of course, the emphasis is going to be on the JavaScript coding. It may help you to think you're designing a JavaScript application and the screens of the iPhone or the HTML app are the presentation mechanism for input and output. We'll cover several frameworks in class. Due to the compressed nature of the class, you may find it advisable to do what we really do at work, which is implement phase 1 deliverables, and then if you have time later on, maybe as you're working with the problem and the technology, you'll come up with new ideas and you can roll up some phase 2 deliverables. In terms of the number of pages or the number of screens in your app, that's up to you. What I'd like to see is a mobile app or web app that delivers an interesting theme. Of course, you'll scope that to what can realistically be delivered in the available time frame. If your concept includes elements you're unable to fully realize due to time or hardware availability constraints, it's very acceptable to provide a detailed architectural blueprint to present what you would do for that requirement. There's your project grading rubric. So 25% is for well-designed use cases. And if you're not familiar with unified process and use cases, we'll talk about that separately. Use cases are the lingua franca of IT development. And if your intention is to work in IT, it would be a very good idea to start getting familiar with them. 25% is for the code implementation. Your code will be delivered via GitHub. You should do frequent commits because it's interesting for me to see the history of how your code evolves. You should make your repository private and include me as a collaborator. I'll provide a project hand-in template sheet later on with things like a field for the URL for the invitation link to me. Code delivery. During the project presentation, you will showcase via webcam or screen sharing the mobile app or web app your team has delivered. You can use XAMPP, Apache HTTP server if you'd like to present a web app. You may use a website simulator to deliver your mobile app if you'd like to do it that way. And 25% project presentation. So I'm going to set up 30-minute time slots for each team via Adobe Connect. And I'll ask team members questions to determine your level of technical insight and the technical creativity with which you implemented your requirements. You should realize that nobody in the real world ever feels like they have enough time or they have enough resource to do what they need to do. So part of your genius is going to be to get the best job done you can in the available time. What to hand in and how to hand it in. So a GitHub repository of your code assets. Then you could do a wireframe mock-up of what it'll look like and or screens implemented in an HTML web app, Android or iOS. I'm doing my best to accommodate that some teams may have more or less availability of hardware to work with since we can't get in to use the school labs. And a lot of teams bundle their final delivery up in PowerPoint to show all of their screens, wireframes, use cases, notes, descriptions, and so on. So that works out really well. How you'll be marked. The instructor will evaluate your use cases, architectural blueprints, wire mock-ups, wireframes, and all the other project collateral you'll present. Some teams do a video walkthrough of the design and implementation of their project. And if you want, you can host that later on YouTube and include it with your portfolio of stuff that you've done. So when you go to the job interview, you have something nice to show. The instructor will do a virtual meeting using Adobe Connect with each team. During this presentation, you'll showcase your product by whatever means is most suitable to you. It may be demonstrating on the mobile device or web app or via webcam or screen sharing. And you can use a web simulator in place of actually implementing on hardware if you like. So give me the names and student IDs of all of your team members and come up with a cool team name. People with good team names do better. And if you're just working by yourself, that's fine. Just put only your own information in there. Here's where you should start with your project. Describe your project concept. What will you build and how will you build it? Is it a game? a business productivity concept or a mashup that you think people might like to use. So as a mashup, as you know, is when you pull together data from several different sources, like a traffic cam and a weather API, and then, maybe reviews. What's that review service called where people put comments on things? So somebody could drill down to a part of a map and see the businesses with all the Yelp reviews and the weather and the current traffic and where the nearest parking places and all that. So these are just ideas. This is just to prime your brain to get you thinking about it. And what else do we have here? So there's just some questions at the end. Think about a clear and descriptive objective, a list of user stories, which is another name for use cases. Actually, user stories and use cases have some differences, as we'll talk about. A list of bonus features, maybe like your phase 2 deliverables that you're setting up the architecture of your phase 1 platform to accommodate later. And all the resources and links you may have drawn on in terms of doing your project. So you don't have to get this to me by Monday. Just get it to me ASAP. By Tuesday or Wednesday would be fine. And we'll see you in class, and have a nice night. Bye.